Do motivational quotes provide good life advice or bad life advice? Today we're going to answer that question. My name is Nevern. I'm a clinical psychologist and I have mixed feelings about motivational quotes. So I thought today let's ask ChatGPT to provide us with 10 of the most popular motivational quotes, the quotes that people love, and let's review them using my clinical experience as a psychologist who actually helps people improve their lives. So yeah, let's do it. Let's say, please give me 10 of the most popular motivational quotes. Okay, let's see what ChatGPT has in store for us. Alrighty, we're straight off the bat with Steve Jobs. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. Okay, straight away, I'm going to say this is incorrect. I have people in my practice who do great work, amazing work, but it's not because they love it. Sometimes they find purpose in what the work will bring. And that's very different from loving the work you do. Loving the work you do means actually enjoying it. It means enjoying the process. I know some people who do really good work, but they kind of hate it. They hate the process of having to get there, but they see the value in it. So they don't love the work they do, but they see a lot of purpose and meaning in it. So purpose and meaning is separate from enjoyment. I think that's what I'm trying to say here. So let's give this one a 6 out of 10 because look, loving what you do really does help. Loving what you do, enjoying the process really does help you to do good work. But here it says the only way. So Steve, you've phrased this incorrectly at best, I could say. Number 2, don't watch the clock. Do what it does. Keep going. By Sam Levinson. I think this one is useful in the sense that it puts you in a state where you're working toward what you want. You're not just fantasizing about it. You're not just looking around and hoping things will happen. A lot of people I see in my therapy practice are more passive, and they're in a state of passive anxiety where they're just waiting for life to get better. I like the idea that this emphasizes the importance of action. And so for that, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I'm deducting 2 points because I'm not really sure how this can land on someone who is immobilized anyways. Someone who is maybe under the spell of a bit of depression and really can't keep going, really lack motivation and things like that. So yeah. Third, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. Okay, that one sounds cheesy, but I quite like it because it's reframing failure. Something in psychology that we learn, a psychological technique that helps a lot of clients is cognitive reappraisal. Cognitive is just a fancy German word for thinking, and reappraisal means to see something differently. So cognitive reappraisal is whenever you're reframing or thinking differently about a situation so that it's more functional. And that's what Winston Churchill is doing here. He's using cognitive reappraisal to change the way that you look at failure. Because it's true, it's not necessarily final, it's not necessarily fatal. Sometimes it is, but you're probably not in that situation. So I like the fact that he's reframing failure here because failure is what stops a lot of people. But as we know, the master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried, as the famous proverb goes. So I like this one. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Okay, number 4. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. Theodore Roosevelt. Okay, Theodore, I like this. I like this because there's this idea in psychology. It's called self-efficacy, which is basically your belief in your ability to do something. So your belief in your ability to accomplish or succeed at some specific task. So for example, I have high self-efficacy when it comes to filming videos. I have low self-efficacy when it comes to, let's say, parkour or something like that, or maybe tennis. I have low self-efficacy. Even though I'm trying to get better at it, I'm not very confident in my ability to succeed at it. So we all have self-efficacy beliefs related to specific tasks. And I think what Theodore Roosevelt is speaking about here is that if you believe that you can accomplish a task, if you believe that you are capable, in other words, if you have high self-efficacy for something, then you're more likely to succeed. And that is what the psychological science shows. And it makes logical sense. Just think about this. If you don't believe you can do something, you don't try. I know people who, they don't apply for job interviews because they don't believe they'll get the job. But, who knows? If they had the belief that they might get it, then perhaps going for the interview might have led to something. But their lack of belief stopped them from even getting halfway. And that's what Theodore is saying here. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. So I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10 as well. I think it's actually pretty good. So far, the quotes aren't doing too bad. Number 5. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's Wayne Gretzky. Okay. Again, I think this is a really good way of saying that you can't succeed at something if you don't try. And again, trying is essential. You have to try before you succeed. Trying always precedes succeeding. So any quote that emphasizes the fact that you do have to try, you do have to take the shot, you do have to say yes to the experience, anything that emphasizes saying yes to life in general, I'm a big fan of. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. I think I've heard it too much personally, but again, I think the motivational quotes are winning so far in terms of life advice. I didn't think I would actually be this generous because I've heard a lot of weird quotes. But so far, so good. Let's see if we can finish the second half strong, though. Number 6. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Elena Roosevelt. What I like about this quote is that it reminds us that it's the dreamers who change the world. It's the people who have the outlandish vision. It's the people who are crazy enough to envision or imagine something beautiful for the world. It's not the cynic who changes things. It's not the person who doesn't believe that things can get better, who does change the world. It's the people who dream. It's the people who dare. It's the people who do. So I love that about this quote. I think more people need to believe in the beauty of what the future could look like. I think that should be encouraged. And I don't think enough of us do it. I think a lot of us have become cynical. A lot of us watch too much news, which, by the way, psychological science shows increases our negativity bias. It makes us think that the world is currently more negative than it actually is. So personally, I'm not a big fan of the news because of that. And I think it's news and it's how vile people can become on social media when they're anonymous and the mean comments that they can leave and stuff like that makes us very cynical about where the world is going. But actually, there's a lot that's getting better in the world. A psychologist who's written a really good book on this is Professor Steven Pinker. He's written the book I think it's called Enlightenment Now. It speaks about lots of metrics that show that the world is actually getting better in many ways, in terms of homicides, global wars, things like that. So that's not to say that we don't have big problems. It's just to say that there is a reason to be optimistic. There's reason to dare, to dream, to hope, and to do. And I think we need more people like that. And look, even if those people fail, I think trying is still going to give us a better chance at succeeding here. So that's number 6. I'm going to give that one a 9 again out of 10. So far no 10s, but that one came pretty close. Cool, let's see. Confucius. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. Okay. This one, this is where my skeptical or critical side comes out because, this is a silly example, but what I imagine here is someone who's in an abusive relationship, for example, and Confucius comes around and says, hey, I know you're getting abused right now, but, it doesn't matter how slow the abuse is, just as long as you keep going. Or it doesn't matter how long it takes to get the person to love you and treat you well, just don't stop. Just keep going. Just stay in the relationship. Again, I know that's a far-fetched example, but oftentimes we are in situations where we do need to stop, where we do need to reflect, where we need to pivot, where we need to take on something else, try something new. And just persisting is not always the answer. So I know that might not be what Confucius meant here, but if someone takes this quote too literally, they might not consider the possibility that you should stop. Maybe you are in a situation where it would be better to stop, reflect, and pivot as needed. A lot of my clients are struggling in their lives because they keep trying the same thing. I think that Einstein quote was really applicable here. The definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. A lot of people are in that situation, and I don't think this quote can help those people. So look, for the people who do need to keep going, it can be inspirational. So I'm going to give it a 5, but I'm deducting the other 5 for the other half of the population who actually do need to stop, reflect, and pivot. Okay. Number 8, act as if what you do makes a difference. It does. And that's by William James. This one, it's a bit Pollyanna-ish for me. It's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit vague, it's a bit generic, it's a bit fluffy. I'm not a big fan of this one. Sometimes what you do doesn't make a difference to what your goal is. I get what he's saying in the sense that everything you do makes a difference in some way. You know, if I, for example, hydrate today, that's going to make some sort of difference in maybe the way my body is operating today, but it might not make the difference that we want. Sometimes it's the difference we want that matters. It's our specific goals that matter. And so I think it's not enough for something to make a difference. It has to make a difference in terms of getting us closer to the life we want and our vision for the world. And honestly, that doesn't always happen. Not everything you do makes a difference in the sense in which it matters. And because of that, I think it's important, instead of thinking that everything you're doing is making a difference, but rather to evaluate, how is my effort and my intent translating into outcome, translating into impact, getting me closer to my goals. I think that's a bit wiser than what William James is saying here. I'm a bit biased because I do like William James. He's a very famous and one of the founding fathers of psychology, but I'm going to have to be a bit of a rebel and go against people in my own field and say this one's a 4 out of 10. Okay, number 9, Franklin D. Roosevelt. We've got 3 Roosevelts here: Theodore, Franklin, and Eleanor. So, they're doing well on the motivational front. Okay, anyways, number 9. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow is our doubts of today. I have a phrasing issue here. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow is our doubts of today. The only limit. I don't think that's the only limit. So I think Franklin speaking here in a very theatrical way, which I don't appreciate. I'm a bit too logical to appeal to stuff like that. So that's not the only limit to the realization of tomorrow. Another limit can be me dying, for example. But again, maybe I'm a bit too critical and skeptical at times. You guys can let me know in the comments. But number 9, the only limit to our realization of tomorrow is our doubts of today. First of all, I don't think it's the only limit. Second of all, it doesn't tell you what to do about your doubts. Sometimes doubts can be a good thing. Sometimes it's healthy to doubt certain things. For example, someone who's trying to con you, you don't just want to believe what they're saying. You don't want to just give the con artist your money. You want to have a healthy level of doubt. So doubt is a protective mechanism. It's just about whether our doubt is accurate and reliable. If it is accurate and reliable, then great. But if it's not, if it's holding you back, I think that's where this quote applies, because that is where it could stop you from realizing what you could do tomorrow. So there is some truth in it, in the sense that a lot of people do hold themselves back by self-doubt. But the problems I have with this quote is that sometimes doubt is a healthy thing, and it's not the only limit to the realization of tomorrow. So because of those 2 issues, I'm going to deduct 5 points. I'm going to give this one a 5. And the final one: the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. I like this one. It's a Chinese proverb. I like it because it emphasizes the importance of the now, the process, plowing the fields, sowing. It implies that you should be focusing on what you can do, your input. A lot of us get stuck on what we should have done or what we could have done. But this one is saying, the second best time is now. Focus on the now. And I think any emphasis on the now is inherently healthy. What I've seen in my therapy practice is that a lot of the suffering that people have is because they're absorbed in the anxieties of the future, or they're absorbed in the depression of the past. So future-based thinking tends to be anxiety-provoking. Past-based thinking tends to be depressive. And so I think learning how to center yourself in the now and practicing stuff like mindfulness meditation, things like that, and doing what you can do now with what you have control of is extremely healthy. And because of that, I am going to give it a 9 out of 10 as well. So we've got some 9s, we've got some 5s, we've got things in between. Let me know what you guys think. Which of these quotes do you think I've misunderstood? Which ones do you think are actually motivational to you? Tell me how you would evaluate these, if you see any issues with them or not, and just in general, what do you think of motivational quotes? Let me know in the comments, and let me know if you enjoy this kind of video, and I'll make some more of these.